Good. If we just take a few seconds, that'd be. Yes, sure. Yourself? Okay. I practice in verbal.
Just a little tiny firm.
Yeah. I do environmental law. Very good. Yeah, what did you do?
I did a lot of different things. I never did environmental. I was with the Long Beach.
This one first?
The site is on under that.
Yeah.
I used to be part of it. I named pretty well now. I'm
So not that I need it, in fact, can somebody volunteer to give me a piece of paper?
I don't know.
I have a lot of friends who are currently going.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay, so your case being scored high. We're on safety, but like a few years.
that's good.
Every time I have certain one, I do. I so I to be standing over there, but but I got again the reals. So.
Oh.
I'll try to get all of them. Here, I got the questions in addition to all of my.
Where did you go to law school?
Here, so. This where you go here?
No, I USD.
Yeah, my friend. Yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, I just had rough San Diego. My parents have, we have a place on the ocean. Well.
Yeah, God forbid. I was doing such a.
Glad, and they're actually letting me do work. So, see, that's the thing I'm concerned about, large law firms, oftentimes special education. You would say to just like walk around with briefcase.
I've been incredibly pleasantly surprised. You went through the experience thus far.
Well, maybe they have.
Yeah, you do.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah, no.
They're so very well. They're just. Just.
You know, it's good. I've done second, third administrative trial.
Those are fine. I did a few of those way back in the day. I don't remember why I did it. Reason that I couldn't never want to get it.
Is currently prepping for 2 more trials, one in November, one in January.
Are you guys gonna be involved in all this mess?
So we have done some regulatory advisory consulting.
So unless people want to keep talking, should we get started?
Plaintiff is here and ready to proceed, Your Honor. Defense is here and ready.
Right, I'll take it. Calling the case of State of AJ Maloney versus Teddy Mother's Vow. I'll take appearances with counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. Hello, my name is Zoe Howe, and these are my co-counsel.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Mitchell Leander.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is David Lee.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Isaac Kidwai. Together, we represent the plaintiff in today's case, Mr. AJ Maloney.
Very good.
Would you like to hear appearances from the defense?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Bella Salate. I'm joined here today by my very good friends and colleagues, Ms. Cole Alfonso.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Ms. Hannah Lee. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
And Ms. Cheyenne Sims. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
And together we represent the defendant, Mr. Teddy Mothersbaugh.
Okay. Are there any preliminary matters that I need to address before we start?
Just a few, Your Honor. First, the plaintiff would move to invoke Rule 603, which is the constructive swearing in of all witnesses, as well as Rule 615, which is the constructive sequestration of all witnesses, of course, excluding the parties in today's case.
Okay.
Now, for Your Honor's context, today's case is a civil battery case about an incident that occurred on the night of July 20th of last year. And this incident involved 3 individuals, the defendant, the plaintiff, and the defendant's partner, an individual named Ali Uchida. Now, we're pursuing a claim of battery against the defendant, alleging that their conduct was in fact the cause of AJ Maloney's injuries and subsequent coma. If I could turn your Honor's attention to the binder there in front of you, we're going to be looking at the pretrial order. It's likely on the 10th page of that binder, though I understand there might not be tabs. Oh, maybe there are.
There are 10 tabs, but there's not a consecutive numbering system, so.
Oh, shit. My guess is the 10th page in there, if that's helpful for trying to find a tab that looks like it's
And
about.
I'm gonna
10%.
work on the assumption that I'll remember whatever.
Sounds good, Your Honor. Now, we're gonna be, the pretrial order, it's our understanding that each side in today's case will in fact be calling an expert witness. Before trial today, we've already come to an agreement about some of the issues that typically arise, specifically pursuant to their conclusions and Daubert Foundation. We've gone ahead and waived any 702 objections both sides have to any conclusions contained in the report or the testimony. And while the type of foundation that you might typically expect an expert to lay is not necessary, the expert may still choose to do so. And now next, if we're gonna look at the stipulations, it's gonna be stipulation 16 for defense counsel's reference. Stipulation 16 should be on the 9th page of that binder. Somewhere around there, it's gonna be on the 2nd page of
They're
the
falling
stipulation.
apart and I'm gonna go by memory.
Sounds good, Your Honor. All this says is that before trial today, the parties have agreed that the injuries that the plaintiff, AJ Maloney, sustained were in fact consistent with Exhibit 7, which is the weapon in today's case. And finally, Your Honor, since we've never been in your courtroom before, we'd just like to ask about your preferences for us attorneys before we move about the well, whether that be approaching opposing counsel, the witness, the bench. If you'd like us to ask permission or to state on the record.
So I'm a visiting judge for this, so I don't have any experience with this courtroom. And I just ask you to be respectful to your opposing counsel advice.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. I do.
With that, we're ready to proceed unless defense has any pretrial matters.
No, Your Honor, plaintiff counsel covered everything. We're ready to go.
Then I'll hear some statements.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor. Mr. Alfonso. Ladies and gentlemen. It was payback. Not protection. When we think of people who protect our streets, a few things probably come to mind. The police, firefighters, law enforcement. But what if I told you that in this city, there's someone else entirely, a man who dons a mask and a suit and a cape and takes people out by his rules? This city has a vigilante. And you're going to learn that they call him the Serpent. And that for the Serpent, justice for other people, enforcing the law, those things don't matter. What matters is getting revenge for himself. And you're going to learn that one night, that's exactly what he does. See, it's July 20th, 2024, just 1 year ago from today. A young man named AJ Maloney is working at a nightclub. He clocks in just like any other day, but that night, he looks across the room and notices an undercover journalist doing an investigation into the gang that runs that nightclub. Now, AJ Maloney, he's not too enthused. So he approaches that journalist, says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And just as things are about to escalate, a man with a mask appears. But he doesn't go and break up that fight. He doesn't say, "Hey, you two, stop that." He's thinking about what the gang did to his family 5 years ago when they murdered his parents. And so in that moment, the vigilante, he goes up to AJ Maloney, he strikes, hits him again and again, beats him so brutally that he enters a coma. And while we're here today, AJ Maloney, he's still in that coma today, a year later. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to prove to you today that it was the defendant, Teddy Mothersbaugh, underneath that mask. That's why the estate of AJ Maloney has brought this claim of civil battery against the defendant. Meaning we just have to prove one thing, that it was the defendant who intentionally attacked the victim. Now we just have to prove that it's more likely than not true, a tip of the scales, that we call that the preponderance bar. We're confident we'll meet that burden today by showing you two things. what the defendant did and why the defendant did it. Let's start with that first, what the defendant did. Today, we're going to call the owner of the Hellfire Lounge to the stand today. She was the boss of AJ Maloney and the person who actually brought this suit. She's going to testify and walk us through what she saw that night, how when she went into the alley, she saw AJ Maloney's body on the floor, bruised, beaten. And that when she looked to the right, she saw the serpent running from the scene. And we're going to prove to you that that serpent was the defendant, because we're also going to call the doctor who had examined AJ Maloney's body. She's not just going to say how bad he was bruised, 6 bones broken. That doctor is going to explain that the damages on AJ Maloney's body were consistent physically with the profile of Teddy Mothersbaugh, the defendant. That brings us to why the defendant chose to do what he did that night. Now, in a moment, the defense, Mr. Alfonso, we expect that he's going to come before you and all trial long try to tell you that even if it was the defendant who attacked AJ Maloney that night, that he can't be found liable under the law because he was doing it out of protection. That whatever the defendant did was necessary and proportionate to the damage that AJ Maloney might have done to that journalist. But we expect the defendant to testify, take an oath, and take that stand today. And he's going to have to admit that he blames AJ Maloney and the gang who runs Hellfire Lounge for killing his parents. And that he wanted to avenge him. It was his right. That's why at the end of today's trial, you'll see that it was payback and not protection. Thank you.
From the defense, John.
Ready?
This case is about a man who stepped in to stop a beating. Plaintiff, they told you a lot about Teddy Mothersbaugh. Made him look like a brutal bully hell-bent on beating up innocent people. That couldn't be further from the truth. They didn't tell you that Mr. Mothersbaugh, he's a CEO of a company. Its only mission is to help students overseas find jobs. Didn't tell you how he teaches kids in after-school programs. That's the kind of person he is. And yes, he's also a community volunteer nicknamed by some kids called the Serpent. But today it's different. Because today the plaintiff, they're calling him something else, an attacker. But what you'll see is that Teddy Mothersbaugh didn't set out to hurt anyone that night. He stepped in to stop that bouncer, AJ Maloney, from beating a woman. See, it's important to remember that the law allows a person to use reasonable force to defend another person. You'll learn that's what Teddy did. AJ Maloney is no victim. AJ Maloney was the attacker, and Teddy saved that woman's life. Now, and while the plaintiff, they chose to downplay that initial attack, you'll get to see the whole medical report. And you'll hear that that bouncer, AJ Maloney, beat up that journalist so bad, his injuries are consistent with blunt force trauma. Even worse, you'll learn why that bouncer chose to attack an innocent journalist, chose to beat her. It's because what that bouncer had in his pocket, drugs. Not just one, not two, but 3 drugs of a chemical cocktail fueling that bouncer to a rage like never before seen. Cocaine, MDMA, Crystal meth coursing through his system. He was out of control. It will be undisputed that all those substances were found in his system. You're going to hear from a few people today. First, you'll hear from Teddy Mothersbaugh directly. He'll be honest with you. He'll admit that he and that journalist were investigating rumors that drugs were being funneled through that nightclub. Teddy had seen it with his own eyes just a few weeks earlier. Crates full of that same drug cocktail in the back of that same lounge, the same lounge that bouncer worked for. Now, in the alley behind that club, Teddy found that journalist, his own girlfriend, laying on her back on the ground, while that bouncer knelt over her and beat her. On top of her, punching, hitting her over and over again. Mr. Motherwell didn't have time to wait for help. He had a choice that anyone would make. Watch it happen, or step in and get involved. He stepped in. Wasn't payback. He protected her. Now, Teddy, he tried to pull that bouncer off her, but AJ Maloney, that bouncer, he was bigger, stronger, trained. He was thrown off, grabbed, slammed into a wall. He used the only tool he had to make that bouncer stop beating that woman. And it worked. But AJ Maloney, that drug-fueled craze, Teddy had hit him over and over and over again for him to finally stay down. And what you'll learn, Mr. Mothersbaugh, he didn't run afterwards, didn't try and hide, suppress evidence. He was the one that called police. He cooperated with law enforcement. That's not the behavior of someone trying to hide something. It's someone trying to do what's right. Now, you'll also hear from a forensic expert, a woman named Lieutenant Gilk. She's a professional. Decades of experience, trusted by courts around the country. Now, she'll show you that the blood spatter analysis, and she'll explain to you what that means. She'll walk through the direction of the droplets, the impact zones, the trail. She'll tell you that AJ Maloney wasn't the aggressor, beg your pardon, wasn't the innocent bystander, that he was the aggressor. She'll tell you how Teddy intervened to save a life. At the end of this trial, we'll ask you to find that the force used by Teddy Mothersbaugh, it was justified. Because this case is about a man who stepped in to stop a beating. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, you're the first witness.
Yes, Your Honor, plaintiff calls Dr. Meyer to the stand. May we proceed, Your Honor?
Sure.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
Hello there, my name is Dr. Talbot Meyer.
What do you do for a living, Dr. Meyer?
I work at Debneth Memorial Hospital.
Do you mind telling the jury what you do there?
Sure, my specialty is in emergency medicine, as well as blunt force injuries. I'm the head physician there, as well as one of the doctors on call. That's why I'm dressed for work today. If my pager goes off, sorry if I run out of the room. For right now, you've got me up.
While we've got you, would you mind telling us how you were involved in today's case?
Yes. So I was actually the physician who treated AJ Maloney when he presented into the emergency department on July 20th of 2024. I've been on his care team ever since, and I was asked by the attorneys in today's case to come here, tell you about his treatment, as well as prepare a report.
I'd like to start from the beginning, if you don't mind. Sure. How did that night start? What happened?
So the night of July 20th, we were in the emergency department, and we received word from one of our ambulance teams that there had been some kind of fight, an altercation, and that someone had been beaten pretty severely. So we got ready for that.
You said that there was a fight. Would you happen to know who some of the individuals involved in that altercation were?
The two individuals who arrived at the hospital were Ali Uchida and AJ Maloney.
Would you recognize their patient intake forms if I showed them to you today?
I would.
I'm showing exhibits 1 and 2 to opposing counsel. Approaching the witness with the same. Dr. Meyer, would you mind telling the court what I've just handed you?
These are the patient intake summaries for AJ Maloney and Ali Uchida.
Are those fair and accurate copies of those patient intake forms?
They look to be yes, ma'am.
All right, well, I want to start and talk about those 2 patients that you treated. Would you say that their conditions were similar?
No, no, ma'am. Although both of these people were involved in the same incident, their conditions could not be more different.
Well, let's start with Ali Uchida. What did their injuries seem like?
I could tell you, but it might be easier if I could show you, point it out.
May the witness step down to the well to perform a demonstration, Your Honor?
She may do that.
Mr. Leonard, do you think you could assist us with that? Maybe bring some of those sticky notes with you?
Got them here for us too.
Oh, better. Okay, you're on top thing.
Alright, tell us about Ali Uchida's injuries, please.
Right, so when Miss Uchida presented to the emergency department, she had several injuries. I'm gonna mark those on Mr. Leander, if that's okay with these red sticky notes. So they were complaining of pain in the shoulder as well as the hip. Right there. Upon observation, I saw some abrasions on the hip, as well as some bruising on the abdomen.
You told us earlier that Ali Uchida and AJ Maloney, their injuries were different.
Yes.
What did AJ Maloney's injuries look like?
Well, Mr. Maloney, when he presented to the hospital, he was having some more trouble. That was pretty concerning. His vitals were fluctuating rapidly. Things just got worse upon observation.
What did you observe?
Well, Mr. Maloney had several broken bones. He had a broken humerus in his right arm. Oh, that's your left arm. I'm sorry, sir. Your right arm. He also had several broken ribs, a broken clavicle, and a broken left foot. That was going to be hard. There you go. He also had several bruises along his back. You don't have to turn, huh?
Well, you mentioned earlier that you prepared a report for this case.
Yes.
What did that process entail for you as doctor?
So you can take this. For me, essentially what I was doing is I was examining AJ Maloney's wounds, and I was trying to figure out if, based on those wounds, Mr. Maloney was the aggressor in the altercation.
How do you do that type of analysis?
Oh, I do a wound analysis. I take a look at all of those wounds and determine, what type of wounds they are, how severe they are, and then I look at the location on the body.
How would you be able to determine if someone was the aggressor or the victim based on their wounds?
Well, I would check for defensive versus offensive wounds.
Would an attacker have both of those?
They would, yes, ma'am. An attacker always has both offensive and defensive wounds.
Do you explain to the jury what defensive wounds are?
Sure. Mr. Leander, do you think you could put your arm up like you're gonna punch me?
Okay.
Now, don't actually do it.
Gotcha.
All right, so Mr. Leander's my attacker. As he's coming to punch me, it's my natural reaction to try to defend myself. I'm going to be pushing and punching and scratching, whatever I can do to stop the attack. Well, when I do that, I'm leaving wounds on Mr. Leander, even though he's the one attacking me.
What about offensive wounds? What would those look like?
Those look a little bit different. So say you have your arm up again. We're looking for things like bruised knuckles, broken fingers, evidence that he was punching and his fists were making contact with someone's skin.
Why were you looking for offensive wounds in this case?
Well, we knew that there was an altercation that took place. So when we were looking at, say, Mr. Maloney, we wanted to see if he had some of those defensive or offensive wounds.
If AJ Maloney had defensive and offensive wounds, would that mean that he was the aggressor?
Yes, but that's not what I found in this case.
What did you find?
I didn't find either defensive nor offensive wounds.
What did that indicate to you?
Well, that indicated to me that AJ Maloney was not the person who started this fight.
Thank you. Dr. Meyer, you can go ahead and retake your seat.
Thank you, Mr. Leander.
Now, would someone's wounds be able to tell you any other details about the person who might have attacked AJ Maloney?
Yes, beyond determining who the aggressor was, you can also build a profile of who the assailant was in a situation.
How would you do that?
Well, I would look at the wounds and see the angles and the directionality of them. It can tell us whether the assailant was, tall or short, if they were left or right-handed.
And what about in this case? What did you determine about AJ Maloney's assailant?
What I found is that based on the downward to even, punches, I could tell that the person who attacked AJ Maloney was about the same height and about the same build as him. As well as that, I saw a lot more bruising on the left side of Mr. Maloney's body. That led me to believe that the attacker was left-handed.
Do you know if the defendant, Teddy Mothersbaugh, is consistent with your understanding of AJ Maloney's assailant?
And yes, so the profile that I built is actually quite fitting for Mr. Mothersbaugh. He is the same size and build as Mr. Maloney. He also, based on some media I've watched of him, is left-handed.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. At this point, I have no further questions.
Cross-examination, Your Honor.
You're ready.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Sure.
A doctor, if it wasn't for someone named Emerson Rajan, you would have lost your job, right?
Lost my job, not necessarily. Our hospital has a donor named Emerson Rajan who helped us keep up operations.
Let's break down whether or not that's actually true, because Emerson Rajan, she's in this room today, right?
Yes, she is.
She's sitting right there, right?
That's her, yes, ma'am.
The last several years, she's been making donations to the hospital that you work at, right?
Yes, Ms. Rajan has been a generous donor to Devneff Memorial.
Right. Without Miss Rajan's donations, you think that the ER that you work at would have closed?
Yes, the emergency department is typically privately funded, rather than receiving grants from, say, the federal government. We definitely would have struggled if Ms. Rajan wasn't making those donations.
Ma'am, it's not that you would have struggled. You think that without Miss Rajan's donations, the ER that you work at would have closed?
Well, the emergency department is something a city needs, so I hope it wouldn't have closed, but yes, it very well could have.
Ma'am, without Miss Rajan's consistent donations, you think that you would have lost your job?
Your Honor, asked and answered.
May I respond?
And no, it's cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm asking you again. Without Miss Rajan's donations, you think you would have lost your job?
Well, if the emergency department at Devneff closed, I would have had to move to a different hospital, yes.
So that's a yes to the question I was asking you. Without Miss Rajan's donations, you think you would have lost your job, right?
Yes, if it closed and I had to move professions, I would have lost that job, yes, ma'am.
So I want to talk a bit about AJ Maloney and whether or not he was in the right state of mind that night, because you actually found drugs in AJ Maloney's system, right?
Yes, ma'am, I did find drugs in his system. We weren't able to do like a psychological test. He wasn't conscious when he came into the emergency department.
All right, so let's talk about those drugs some more. Would you recognize them if I were to show it to you?
I have seen, yes, the drugs that were present.
Your Honor, I'm approaching the witness with what's marked as Exhibit 8. These are the drugs that were found on AJ Maloney's person that night, right?
They looked, yes, ma'am.
It's fair and accurate copy.
Looks, so yes.
Defense moves Exhibit 8 into evidence.
Without objection, Your Honor.
Okay, exhibit 8 is admitted into evidence.
Doctor, you analyzed this drug, correct?
Yes, the lab performed some tests on them.
It's a drug called Hell Dust, right?
I believe that's the street name for it, yes.
It's a combination of cocaine, MDMA, and methamphetamines, correct?
Yes,
On the night of July 20th, you ran a toxicology report on Mr. Maloney, correct?
Yes, as part of the vital reading that we did when you came into the emergency room, that is one of the things we did.
That's right, and according to that toxicology report, you found a significant amount of drugs in his system, right?
Any amount of drugs such as cocaine, methamphetamines in someone's system, well, that's concerning. It's significant.
But that wasn't my question. My question was whether or not you found a significant amount of drugs in his system, and that's a yes.
Yes, but any amount is significant.
You found that this drug, hell dust, it matched the drugs found in AJ Maloney's system, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Obviously, we want to know what someone's taken, and when they have the drugs on their person, we're able to test that to make sure that this is what they've taken. We can maybe find out what we can do to best help the patient.
So that's a yes, you found that drug, hell dust, in Mr. Maloney's system.
Yes.
So let's talk about your emergency room background, because you used to work in the ER at Gaunt City, right?
Yes, I worked a few towns over in Gaunt City, at the Med.
Night after night, you treated victims of violence, right?
Yes, Gaunt City, it had a lot of violence, and the emergency room got pretty busy at night.
You believe that most of those victims were victims of vigilantes, right?
Yes, after talking to the patients and treating them, I found out that they'd been attacked by these so-called vigilantes, trying to stop crime, but using violence to do so.
So you grew to hate the vigilantes, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am. I was faced with the aftermath of what they called justice, and I did not like what I was seeing.
You vowed that you would never help vigilantes, right?
No, if ever I saw one of these vigilantes trying to stop crime, I wasn't going to be the person to step in and help.
Now, I noticed that, like, coming into court today, you could have worn a suit, right?
No, ma'am. I'm actually on call today. The other physicians, they couldn't be on call today.
All right, you're wearing your scrubs. You want the members of the jury to know that you're a doctor.
Well, I am a doctor. I was going to tell them that. Yes.
I want them to trust you, right?
Well, of course, yes.
Doctor, you took a Hippocratic oath before you became a doctor, right?
Yes, ma'am. It was part of my training to become a doctor.
Do you think that it's acceptable for the head doctor at an ER to vow that they would never help a certain demographic of people?
Ma'am, that's not what I said.
Ma'am, did you or did you not say
Your
that
Honor.
you would?
I'd ask that opposing counsel allow the witness to finish answering the question that she asked.
Seemed like she answered, so.
Ma'am, yes or no?
I'll be on the lookout for that.
Did you or did you not vow that you would never help vigilantes?
Help is different than treat, ma'am. If I saw a vigilante on the street trying to deliver justice as they saw it, I wasn't going to help them. But if someone came into my emergency room injured, of course I would help them.
Let's talk about whether or not that's true. Because on the night of July 20th, you treated Ali Uchida, right?
Yes, I did.
Before you treated her, you knew she was pro-vigilante.
I was aware of that. Miss Uchida, she's a journalist. I had read some of her pieces in the paper.
Before you treated her, you had a negative opinion about her.
I definitely didn't like the articles that I read. I didn't know her personally, though.
On direct examination, you spent quite a lot of time using these sticky notes to show Ali Uchida's injuries on your on your attorney's.
Leander, yeah.
Yeah, right. I just want to be clear. You spent 1 minute examining Ali Uchida.
While I was on rounds, I examined Miss Uchida. Mostly, I was just reading over her chart, checking to see if she needed anything.
Was that a yes or no to the question I asked you?
If you're talking about the amount of time when I'm on rounds, yes, I'm just walking in, spending about a minute or so, reading over the chart, seeing if the patient needs anything, and then talking to the nurses.
Ali Uchida came into that ER unresponsive, but you still chose to spend 1 minute on her, yes or no?
Oh, ma'am, someone else was treating her when she came in. I was treating AJ Maloney.
So yes, 1 minute.
When I was on rounds later, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Nothing further.
May I redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Meyer, when a patient comes into your emergency department, do you treat them to the best of your ability?
Absolutely, yeah. No matter who's coming through that door, it's my job to treat them and get them back home.
Does your personal opinion of a patient ever affect the decisions that you make for their medical care?
Absolutely not. Patient care is something I do in tandem with the patient. We talk about what's best for them, and I help them make the best informed decisions they can.
Thank you. I have no further questions. I'm approaching to retrieve exhibits 1 and 2 from the witness stand.
Any more, lacrosse?
No recalls, I believe. I have no time. Just point of order, I don't believe exhibits 1 and 2 have yet been entered into evidence yet.
At that point, Your Honor, we would move to enter exhibits 1 and 2 pursuant to stipulation. All objections have been waived.
All right, accepted and dead.
We would ask that Dr. Meyer be allowed to step down.
Yes, you're free to leave the courtroom if you're not involved.
Your Honor, defense calls Dr. Leighton Gwilt to the stand.
Very good. Whenever you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself?
Oh, of course. Hi, everybody. I'm Leighton Gwilt.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I'm an independent forensic analyst. Independent part just means that I work for a variety of clients, police departments, civil litigants like this, and recently, actually, a private citizen asked me to determine who stole her schnauzer using forensic evidence.
Who did it?
It was the husband. It's always the husband.
So can you tell us what exactly you do as a forensic analyst?
Of course. I see forensic analysis as the science of storytelling. What we do is this: we look at the evidence at the scene of an incident, and we see what that evidence can tell us about the story of that incident.
What kind of training do you need to become a forensic analyst?
Well, I got my bachelor's in chemistry at Tufts University, and I was trained. I got my master's in forensic analysis at the University of Florida.
So I want to talk about your forensic analysis and the case at hand today. How'd you get involved in today's case?
Well, actually, I was originally on this case as a consultant for the police department. I was on the scene of the crime after July 21st. That's when I analysed the scene itself.
You said that you analyzed the scene itself. Were you ever retained by anybody involved in today's case?
I was, of course. After I finished my consulting with the police officers, the defendant, whom I believe I should disclose now that I do know personally, did retain me to work on this case.
How do you know the defendant?
Well, Mr. Mothersbaugh and I were on the same intramural cricket team after work. I am the star batsman and he is the star benchwarmer, but it's all good fun.
Ma'am, did your connection to the defendant hinder your ability to make an analysis for today's case?
Of course. Mr. Mothersbaugh, I treated this case like I would any other client. I did all of my analysis independently, and he was free to call or not call me in today's case.
So let's talk about that analysis. You said that part of your job is to use the evidence to tell the story of an incident. Where'd you start?
I started at the source of our story, at AJ Maloney himself. See, when Mr. Maloney was taken into the hospital, an intake form was prepared for him. He also had drugs on his person at the time. I analysed both of these things to see what I could determine about the state that AJ Maloney was in when he entered that altercation.
Would you recognize those materials if I were to show it to you, the intake report and the drugs?
I would.
If you could flip in that binder to exhibit 1. Your Honor, I'm approaching the witness with what's in evidence as exhibit 8.
Brilliant.
What are those 2 things that you're looking at?
Right, well, here exhibit 1, this is that intake form for Mr. Maloney, the analysis of his injuries at the time of the incident. And these are the drugs that were found on Mr. Maloney's person at that time.
So let's start with those drugs. How did you test them?
So I performed what we call a mass spectrometry test. Basically, you take a substance, in this case, the drug found on Mr. Maloney's person, and you beam them with an array of electrons. Some of the molecules in that substance will absolutely bugger out, and some will stay quite calm. Based on how those molecules respond and to what extent, we can get a pretty good idea of what that substance is.
Based off of that test you performed, were you able to identify what those drugs were?
I was. Based on that mass spectrometry test, this is a cocktail of methamphetamine, MDMA, and cocaine, or what we call in the forensic world, a hell of a lot of drugs.
You said that this hell dust was found in Mr. Maloney's possession. Were you able to determine if that drug was in his system?
I was. So, according to Mr. Maloney's intake report, amounts of this controlled substance were detected in his bloodstream. It also says that that substance presence may have affected his neurological responses.
What did that tell you?
Well, now we have an idea of how Mr. Maloney might have entered that altercation, what state he might have been in, but we still didn't have a clear picture of what exactly transpired during that altercation between Mr. Maloney and this vigilante known as the Serpent.
How did the scene of the you said that you had this basic picture. What did you do next?
In order to fill in that gap, that scene of the altercation, I returned to the scene and I analysed exactly what was left behind.
What exactly did you analyze of what was left behind?
Well, physical fights like this can be messy. In this case, AJ Maloney and the Serpent, as you call him, had an altercation outside of the Hellfire Lab, so a public place. Evidence can be moved or altered on accident or on purpose, but there are a couple of things that people can't take with them.
Like what?
Blood.
Did you find blood in this case at the scene of the crime?
I did. I analysed the blood patterns at the scene of the crime to understand better exactly what transpired that night.
So what did the blood at the scene of the crime tell you about what transpired that?
Well, I used the patterns to determine, see if I could determine exactly who was the aggressor in that altercation, whether or not it was AJ Maloney or the Serpent.
How can blood tell you about who the initial aggressor was?
So, for example, Mr. Maloney had quite a lot of Mr. Maloney had quite a lot of blood on the scene. And that would indicate that a lot of blood was shed by this Serpent.
What does that mean?
Well, you'd think it would mean that the Serpent was the initial aggressor. But there was something else. Where Mr. Maloney's blood wasn't, told us quite a bit more than where it was.
You said that where his blood wasn't told you more than where his blood was found. How does that make sense?
There was a void pattern. Think of it like this. If you drive your car in the rain and you park it on the driveway, and when you come outside, it's not raining anymore. When you come out, your car will leave a shadow, a pattern. That's a void pattern. It means that that car was there for the duration of that rain. We found that same thing, except the pattern in Mr. Maloney's blood, it was the size and shape of Aliuchi's body.
You said that the size of the empty space was the size and shape of Ali Uchita's body. What did that tell you?
It means that Miss Uchita was on the ground for the duration of the fight between Mr. Maloney and the Serpent. That means that by the time the Serpent intervened, Miss Uchita was already pushed to the ground by AJ Maloney.
How do you know that Ali Uchita was on the ground that entire time?
Could I show you?
Sure.
So, actually, will you be our Serpent here, Miss Alite?
Sure.
Miss Sims, if you would be our AJ Maloney. And, well, Miss Lake, could you be our chair? Mr. Honda, stay there. So basically, and let's start from the beginning of our altercation. If we imagine that the Serpent was the initial aggressor, and he attacks AJ Maloney, well, we would see a lot of blood, which we did, spattered around the area. But we would see a consistent blood pattern, which is not.
Objection, Your Honor, as to 403. More prejudicial than probative.
So I'll hear you on that.
Your Honor, currently they're reenacting what they're hypothetically imagining the crime scene to be. While this witness can testify to the forensic evidence left behind, for them to then enact what that crime would be, that's substantially more prejudicial. prejudicial than it is probative.
May I respond?
You may.
First, the witness did not say that this is exactly what happened. The witness stated that, take this for example of what happened that night. She's merely explaining that based off of what blood patterns was left behind, she can work backwards to see what had happened. This isn't substantially more prejudicial than it is probative.
Response, Your Honor?
So as long as nobody's hitting anybody else, I don't see that it's gonna be so prejudicial. That rate.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm right about
That's right.
Were you able to finish?
I wasn't. So we can see all the blood spatters, consistent and unbroken if the serpent was the initial aggressor. But that's not what we saw. So let's go back to the inception of our fight. Let's say instead, AJ Maloney attacked Alucida first. Alucida falls to the ground. Then, and only then, does the serpent step in and attack AJ Maloney. Then, you would see Mr. Maloney's blood spread across the scene, only around the outline of Alucida's fallen body. That's exactly what we saw in this case. So that means that that scene of the crime was consistent with the idea that it was AJ Maloney and not the serpent who was the initial aggressor in this case.
Thank you for your time. I have no further questions.
Okay. You need them to stay here?
No, Your Honor. Cross-examination though?
Yes.
Oh, you're right here, sorry.
Drugs.
Maybe let's put a moment.
All right.
Good morning, Ms. Well. I want to be clear about something you said earlier, because you referred to the serpent as Teddy Muffetlaw, is that correct?
I did that, no,
Ma'am, you didn't refer earlier to the serpent as Teddy Mothersbaugh?
not that I'm aware of, no.
Perfect, just wanted to get that straight. I want to be a little bit more clear about what you actually reviewed in today's case, all right?
Cool.
Because you reviewed only the forensic evidence, correct?
That's right. I reviewed the forensic evidence. I also reviewed a couple of exhibits contained in this case.
That excludes any medical analysis of the parties involved today.
Of course, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm a forensic analyst.
Ma'am, you're saying you aren't a medical doctor. You were telling us earlier about how those drugs could have affected someone's mental state. Is that correct?
I was telling you guys about the conclusions of another doctor in today's case to say how that evidence worked into the greater story of that application. So those conclusions are made by a different doctor, and I used them to put together that picture of that story. That's correct.
To be clear, you would defer any medical conclusions to another doctor. Is that correct?
Of course, any medical doctor would have medical conclusions. I have forensic conclusions.
If a doctor got up here and presented some medical conclusions that conflicted with your testimony, you would defer those conclusions to them.
I would say they have the right to their own conclusions, and of course, I have the right to mine.
Ma'am, you never performed a physical examination of the defendant.
No, of course not.
You never performed a physical examination of Ali Uchida. Is that correct?
No, I would have no physical examination prepared.
You didn't interview Ali either.
Oh, certainly not. No, we find that interviewing someone can affect our judgment in these cases. We ought to focus only on the forensic data and not have any outside influence about the story of what may have happened that night.
That's
People
right.
die, but blood doesn't.
That's right, ma'am. You've never even met Ali, have you?
No,
Ma'am, you were talking a lot about this alley-shaped hole on the ground. Is that right?
that's right. There's an alley cheetah shaped hole on the ground, size and shape.
Ma'am, you have no idea what Ali looks like.
I haven't focused on what Ali looks like, but I have a general idea of her size and her shape.
Ma'am, you're telling us you have an idea of her size or shape and you've never met her.
That's right. I haven't met her. I reviewed the forensic analysis in today's case. When I was first on the scene, I had the resources of the police department, and that's how I made my conclusions today.
Bringing you back to my question, you never even seen her, have you?
I haven't seen her. I have her information, her size and her shape.
You have no ability to tell us what size or shape she is because you've never seen her and you've never interviewed her.
I have the ability to tell the size and shape of a person I've never met because I have the underlying facts and data, not because I've met Ali Uchida.
Ma'am, could you point us to what facts or data you have about the size and shape of Ali?
I contained in my report that the bloodstains were the size and shape of Ali Uchida.
Is it your testimony today that it's contained in your report how you found out the size and shape of Ali?
It is certainly contained in my report that those bloodstains were accurate to the size and shape of Ali Uchida. Yes, sir.
Bringing you back to my question, is it contained in your report how you know that size and shape?
I don't believe I was.
Objection, Your Honor, if I may be heard.
Sure.
Your Honor, like opposing counsel stated during pretrial ruling Pretrial Order 4 stated that experts are not required to disclose the underlying facts and data with regard to the conclusions that they make. Now, this conclusion was contained explicitly in this witness's report, and that pretrial order that both parties have already agreed on stated that this witness doesn't need to include those underlying facts to be able to come to that conclusion. At this point, opposing counsel questioning the witness on that fact would be going against that pretrial order and is substantially more misleading to the members of the jury than probative.
Response, Your Honor?
Sure.
I understand the pretrial ruling she's referring to. That's so we don't have to go through all the unnecessary procedure. However, that does not prohibit us from cross-examining the witness, wanting to get to the bottom of where those facts. It's our contention that she has no idea what this person looks like, and therefore can't testify on what a body-shaped hole on the ground of her would look like.
Response to that, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, the witness stated that she hadn't seen her, but that she was provided with the facts and data from her investigation with the police with regards to Ali Uchita's height, like size and shape. That's more than enough, and opposing counsel is violating that pretrial order that they chose to bring up during pretrial.
Response, Your Honor?
No, I'm going to sustain the objection, and the jury's going to be permitted to assume that her report is based upon evidence that was collected, but not necessarily put into.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you can move on.
I want to talk about something you were telling us earlier, which is they were pretty good friends with one of the parties in today's case.
That's right. I have a personal relationship with Mr. Mothersbaugh, yes.
You would call Mr. Mothersbaugh your good friend. You used to play cricket together.
That's right.
In fact, even more than that, you're a big fan of the Serpent, aren't you?
Sure, the serpent does important work in our city, I suppose.
You think the Serpent is a hero.
Sure, yeah.
And more than that, you have a sort of bartering system with the Serpent, is that right?
Well, if you're referring to the fact that the serpent sometimes gives me forensic tips, sure, yeah.
That's correct. And in exchange for those forensic tips, you give the Serpent tips as well, right?
That's right. The serpent provides me with evidence to support forensic conclusions often. So sometimes when the serpent will go out and solve a crime, he'll say, over here there's a footprint, or over here there's a bloodstain, and that will help me come to my conclusion. But not in this case.
Ma'am, that is exactly what happened in today's case, isn't it?
Not exactly, no.
Well, let's talk about that because you were asked directly by the defendant to consult on today's case.
That's right.
Just the day before that, the Serpent gave you one of his biggest tips yet.
That's right, but not about this case.
I understand it's not about this case. I'm just asking about that tip. And that tip helped you solve your biggest case yet.
That's right. It was that Schnauzer case. So, like I said, it was the husband.
And so you jumped at the chance to consult on this case.
Sure.
After that, you even gave the defendant a discount.
I gave the defendant a discount because, like I had mentioned, I was on the scene with the police and had already done a forensic analysis, not because of any tip that the serpent gave me.
Ma'am, is it your testimony today that you had already done the forensic analysis for today's case before you were retained by the defendant?
I had done quite a lot of evidence collection, examination with the police, and that is a part of forensic analysis. So, yes.
The forensic analysis itself, the testing of that evidence, had you done that prior to getting retained today?
I've done the collection examination, not all of the analysis, no.
So after you were retained by the defendant, you waived half your fee, is that correct?
Exactly, for that collection and examination process.
That's not the only way you helped the defendant today, is it?
Could you be more specific?
Well, you gave the defendant tips on how to avoid leaving forensic evidence behind.
No, I did not.
Ma'am, is your testimony today that you didn't tell the defendant how to avoid leaving forensic evidence behind?
I did not.
You remember preparing a report before today's trial?
I did. I do remember that Mr. Mothersbaugh asked me for tips, but I never provided any tips on how to evade forensic examination.
Ma'am, you remember Mr. Mothersbaugh asking you tips about how to avoid leaving forensic evidence?
That's right. He asked, but I didn't provide them to him, no.
So you're telling the jury today that Mr. Mothersbaugh asked it and you just said, I'm not telling you that.
That's right. I said I'm a forensic analyst and that's frankly none of your business.
Okay, Ms. Grell. Well, I want to talk about what those tips would be if you had given them, all right?
Or
Okay, well, let's go through first DNA, because you have some pretty specific tips on how to avoid leaving DNA behind, is that right?
you say tips, there are certain ways that you can avoid leaving DNA behind. Sure, yeah.
You would call wearing heavy fabrics one of those tips you would give out on how to avoid leaving that behind.
Sure. If you wear heavy fabrics, you can avoid leaving things like blood behind. as it will absorb those fats.
And that's exactly what we saw in today's case with the serpent, is that right?
There's some evidence to suggest that it was the serpent wearing heavy fabrics, and it isn't why he left blood on the scene, yes.
Well, what about fingerprints? Because you also have a tip for that as well, right?
I suppose there are ways to avoid leaving fingerprints on the scene, yes.
You'd say the tip you give out is to wear gloves.
Yes, it's possible to avoid leaving fingerprints by wearing gloves.
You know that's exactly what happened today.
I'm not sure.
Time.
No further questions.
All right, any, redirect?
No redirect, I believe we're on.
Oh.
May, Miss Wilt step down.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. So is there supposed to be like a 15-minute or something like that?
Yes, Your Honor, we've got a 15-minute recess in between these two witnesses and the next two witnesses that'll be called.
Okay, so, meeting at 5 o'clock.
Looks to be, let's see about now.
One
Yeah,
five.
35 minutes.
Works for us, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You gotta submit the first round of scoring, you know?
I do that. Submit the first page and move on to the second page after the.
Bailiff, can you, clear with her, she can get that, could you sit like up here for the next thing?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
I was supposed to. I'm just here.
Let me show you.
You know, I started trying to look at the screen like. Yeah. it's very-
Use the spot.
That's part of why I wanted to.
Yeah, good point.
Sure, it is confusing, but totally different witnesses. So they were, there was a character witness, some affiliated witness. No, well, yeah, by definition, the experts in the morning.
Sometimes the expert, I think it's true.
That's true too. Particularly if their expertise is shady. But the witnesses, this is like, guys, witnesses.
That gets us it gets me sort of.
So I just think that it's terrible because they're going, they want to go to law school.
The world that she deals with is much different. You don't want.
Well, that's, it's scary to think about that.
How long have you told?
Only 45 years. So I got a lot to learn.
I stopped at 36.
I'll probably stop by the end of this year.
I had enough. My problem was I was at the same firm for all my practice. It was a mistake.
Yeah, I can't comment on that. I've had like 4 firms, I guess.
I didn't do any networking. Anyway, what area of law do you practice?
Look at litigation. They've done other stuff too.
I did a lot of it.
So I did a lot of different things within CARES. Because when I got out of school, it was just litigation. But now, well, they said,
Wait, that's what's happening with law. How many of those practicing? I'm specializing in that. They did everything. It's some difficult. Somebody says this.
And people have to, affirm, and, we have summer associate program, and people have to decide during their summer associate program what they want to do, and, in the old days, I was a boy.
I used to call it the flavor of the month, when they would turn to some, this is now a popular law, I mean, practices, they go that direction. And it was that direction, and then it was this direction. And every time I was able to turn in your husband.
Well, that's why we do it this way.
They would ask, you do that, okay.
Yeah, well, it was sort of the same way for what I did.
Yeah.
But
What firm?
so I'm now at Shepherd Holland.
Oh, yeah.
I've only been there for, since 2001, so half of it.
Used to do, did all defense work. Companies and the Shepherd defense. Yeah.
Although my practice in probably has been almost 50-50. But that includes professional.
That's the best kind of practice. When you are always. Because on one side, you have civil sensitive. So, I don't like this idea of socializing in words, it's like,
I just want to, save money by having somebody who already knows everything and you don't have to pay them to train.
That's true. My cases are primarily the
Well, that's a scary area to practice. At one point, I was at a firm, its goal was a startup, and the goal was to do most of the contingency work, but they ended up not most of the time.
So no, you have to be fairly established, because there's, it was anyway, didn't bill. Contingent upon settlement or. Yeah. You have to. That's okay. I had a partner that was a rest in peace. We bring us garbage in the attorney.
That's the problem with the industry work. I've been having trouble both the first trial and this one. Spin fork.
I don't know why they bothered giving me that phone chips. Never gonna work.
And it's happening again. Shit.
Like those. They work.
Yeah. So far, it's like half the time.
Hmm.
Thinking maybe my screen is a little raised.
I'd say ask one of these people.
Well, I did it before. The solution was to just start over,
Right.
refreshing. Continue.
I don't think these guys ever even had to read the instructions on how to use their phones. It just comes in 8.
I guess that's true. When they were 6 years old, they were already using them.
Oh my God, I've been in the store with babies waiting to see. Let me start.
In about 7 minutes.
Thank you.
You're gonna need to dump. That ain't it. It's probably your idea. Oh, I was all the way out. I think it's, maybe, you should ask, you should smell it. It's cool, like powder. Great.
No, I think
You should
it's the
taste
blue
it.
one.
Don't taste it.
I'm like almost 100% sure it's the.
So. This is what. Yeah, it was like crazy. We hit on like Trinity. I know, Trinity too many, but we had 201 one go back and then we had been on to our. Where do you think?
So it was the Office of Administrative. The Office of Administrative. You like doing?
Well, I had to get used to being back in the day, deposition.
Virtually or?
Zoom,
Okay.
getting the exhibits. Here are a few very. But eventually put it.
Oh, so I've been doing a lot of my breakdowns in the Kern County Superior Court. Done it with pages everything. And I love the engineering. I think it's so much easier.
There's always like,
The-
next thing I can take.
Well, I don't like being, I do like forgot. But, I think to make point. It's funny, we always think it, so, unless, I mean, if it's tough, we make it.
I think, you know what, one thing, I think sometimes the judges.
Yeah, that's the biggest.
Because they're not fumbling around with technology, with most of them have a hot product already. So, you know, for me, if I don't have to get it back done.
That's that. I have to be on the road before, so now you find out, I take it,
It's all good, don't worry.
which is tough.
Well, this is-
Nothing. That's why they send you junior associate, right?
Well, I have an associate, I do, sometimes have an associate work, more often than not.
Right.
So I did social security, I forgot I did social security administrative hearings.
Okay.
Disability. hearings.
Got it, yeah, so we do.
I'm proud of these are keys, some are very work, people do it in different areas of law. But some areas of law is and immigration law, there's,
That's,
yeah, I did. Yeah, but, I mean, all that was the idea.
Yeah, sure, I gotta come prepared.
But, more complicated pieces.
And I'm working with you, like, oh, there's heels, and she said, no, that's
we
been
do a
right?
lot of.
Been to the court system.
I,
So
so
that's a.
I've been.
Hey, I was kind of, I'll leave you on the spot.
But I haven't been.
Hey, I'm doing it, y'all. That's okay, but I'll tell you everything they want.
So I thought.
If it's direct. You next.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't even be like, I feel a side look, so for like.
It all depends, but it's that too, maybe the Latin America. I had this discussion. I'd like.
Thank you, I'll take it here, yes.
You know. And there was but actually I actually, but I forget to bet.
Yeah. I work for a bank. The bankruptcy goes to 10 weeks, and then you get the money. We have a matter now. Maybe like a transaction. That tons of different make the mechanism about that, but there's a bankruptcy. I was saying the part that like 2 weeks ago. It's like,
Please be seated. And sorry I'm late, having trouble with my machine, but if you're ready to go. Yeah. Are you ready to go?
Yes, Your Honor, plaintiff's ready.
Okay, let's go.
At this time, plaintiff calls Emerson Rajan. Emerson. Good afternoon. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, I'm Emerson Rajan.
Where are you from?
I'm from right here in Tower City. I grew up in a small house with my mom and my 4 older brothers, but nowadays I've got 2 young daughters. They're my whole world.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a businesswoman. I'm the majority shareholder for Rajan Holdings Incorporations. I inherited the company after my mom passed away.
What kind of things does your company do?
We're a holding company in Tower City, so it's changed a lot since I've taken over, but essentially what we do is invest our money to businesses that we see real potential in. We've got our hands in a lot of different areas, so some real estate, some small businesses, and a personal passion project of mine is we donate to the Dead Knack Memorial Hospital.
Ma'am, you told us that the business has changed a lot over the last few years. What do you mean by that?
My mom, she was a tough woman, and I don't blame her. She did what she had to do to get by, but she drove a hard bargain. She bought all these shady businesses, shell companies, the whole 9 yards. I can't undo all of it legally speaking, but I've been working to try and steer it in a better direction.
Was one of your mom's businesses a nightclub in Tower City?
It was. And I want to be perfectly clear, I did not go looking to get my hands on that nightclub. It was one of the businesses she tried to sell off, but the new owner jumped ship back in 2021, so I didn't have it in me to let something my mom built up get torn down, so I bought
That nightclub called?
my mom so lovingly named it, so Emerson Rajan is now the owner and proprietor of the Hellfire Lounge.
Ms. Rajan, were you here earlier today when Mr. Alfonso said that people go to your club to buy drugs?
I was.
Is that true?
No. I've heard the rumors, people talk, they do, but I can't tell you how my mom ran that club or the owner before me, but I run a clean business. I care about the people of Tower City. I try to keep them as safe as possible.
How do you do that?
Well, I'm actually running for mayor in this upcoming election. Keep Tower safe, Tower City a safer city. Bottom line, that's all I care. Sometimes that looks like making school zones safe for pedestrians for the kiddos. Other times, it looks like policies that keep vigilantes off the street.
Hold on, ma'am. What do you mean by keeping vigilantes off the street?
There are a few people in Tower City who think that they have the responsibility to deliver justice. People call them superheroes sometimes, but truly, they are not all that super.
Why do you say that?
Vigilantes make the city more dangerous. A lot of people have concerns. Public safety should be in the hands of elected officials, not people in costumes. It's something I've always been very vocal about, especially after what happened to Mr. AJ Malone.
What happened to AJ Maloney?
About a year ago, AJ was attacked by a vigilante. Someone called the Serpent. I now know that Mr. Teddy Motherspaw as that serpent, I filed a lawsuit against him as administrator.
Objection, Your Honor. Lack foundation.
Okay, elaborate.
Yes, Your Honor. This witness just testified that they now know that Teddy Motherspaw is the serpent. We haven't heard the foundation for how they know that.
Okay, your response to that?
Yes, Your Honor, it's not a fact in contention today, in contention today that Teddy Mothersbaugh is the serpent. Both parties have agreed that this is his alter ego, his alternate identity.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor, we don't dispute that Teddy Motherspaw is the serpent, but we need to hear the foundation for how this witness learned that to understand our motives for bringing this case, which is what her answer is going to.
Okay, well, that's another subject altogether, and you can address it on cross-examination. Not the direct.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Rajan, why are you bringing this lawsuit?
This is a promise I give all my employees. I tell them that if they're ever in the position that they need to be advocated for, but they're not able to do it themselves, that I'm there. It's no different for AJ.
Could you tell us a little bit more about AJ Maloney?
I hired AJ as a bouncer a couple years ago. He came knocking on my door in the dead of the night asking for work and in a beat up jacket and jeans. And I just about shut the door on him, but he stopped me, told me he'd take it. I realized that he was determined, so I gave him a job, but ever since then, AJ's a smart kid. He's a hard worker.
Well, then I want to talk about the night that he was attacked. Ma'am, were you at the Hellfire Lounge that night?
I was.
How did it start for you?
I got there around 7 p.m. that night. Sometimes I go to the lounge to just take care of some managerial tasks. I was filing papers when there was a fight that broke out in the bar that I had to separate and take care of.
While you were there, did you see the attack on AJ Maloney?
No, I actually didn't realize anything was going on until a gaggle of people started crowding around the door that exits to the alley.
Did you see what was going on?
I had to push through quite a few folks to get there, but as soon as I did and I was outside, there were two people laying outside the door.
Who were they?
One of them was a journalist, someone who had been around the Hellfire a couple times, named Ali Uchida. The other was AJ.
What did you do when you saw AJ Maloney on the ground?
I went up to AJ. He was lying there, he was unconscious, so I knelt on the ground. He looked so quiet, so I grabbed his head and I was holding him and I told him that he was going to be okay.
What did he look like?
Just awful, Miss Kidwai. His eyes were swollen shut. He had bruises on his neck and his arms and his face and his shoulder. I've never seen anything like it before.
Did you see anything else?
His shirt, when I was holding him, it was just soaking wet. I had blood on my hands and on the floor. I've seen bar fights, Miss Kidwai, I have, but I've never seen anything like AJ.
What happened next?
I was holding AJ and I started yelling. I asked if someone has called 911, if what happened to him and if they knew who did it. Some of the people in the alleyway started yelling, pointing, saying someone was running out of the alley. Who? Was the serpent.
Thank you for your time today, Ms. Rajan. Nothing further.
Cross, Your Honor.
Sure.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ron.
Good afternoon. Ma'am, on direct examination, you said that you're trying to dismantle your mother's illicit businesses, right?
That's right. Whenever I first started the company, my mom had all these shell companies she was using for who knows what. That's right.
Ma'am, you're not trying to dismantle them, you're involved in them, aren't you?
Involved in them in a completely new way. They've been completely repurposed since my mom had a hold.
Ma'am, you're a convicted criminal, aren't you?
A couple years ago, my company was charged with RICO charges. I spent some time in prison because of the work that my mom did on the business. That's right, Mayor.
Ma'am, you say RICO, for the members of the jury, that means racketeering charges, right?
Objection, attorney testifying.
Swanson?
I was wondering that myself, thanks for the information.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's right. My mom had all these shell companies set up that she was using to siphon money in and out to who knows where. That was something I had to deal with whenever I took over.
Ma'am, when you say had to deal with, you mean you were convicted, don't you?
Absolutely right. Ever since then, we've been repurposing, restructuring, and rebuilding.
Ma'am, you say you've been restructuring, rebuilding, are you talking about that nightclub that you own?
A couple different things. We repurposed the shell companies, started donating, but I do still own that nightclub.
Ma'am, who would you say runs that nightclub?
I do.
You say you run a clean business, that's what you said on direct?
Absolutely.
Ma'am,
I try my hardest.
Ma'am, were you here for the opening statement that Mr. Lee gave?
I was.
Ma'am, did you hear him say that actually a gang runs that nightclub?
Listen, I've heard the rumors and there are a couple things going around, but that's not true nowadays.
Wait, ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm just confused. Mr. Lee is telling us that a gang runs your nightclub. You're saying that you run a clean business. Which one is it?
The nightclub used to be run by a gang of shady people before I bought it in 2021.
So when Mr. Lee says your club's run by a gang, we shouldn't listen to him?
Listen, I'm sure Mr. Lee, he looks like quite a smart fellow, but he might have just been mistaken. Now it's run by me and me alone.
Ma'am, you're the party representative in this case.
I am.
You hired Mr. Lee.
I did.
I'm sure you've been working with Mr. Lee in bringing this case, right?
That's right. I would never hire someone who doesn't look like as smart as fellow as he does.
But you would hire someone that you're telling us we shouldn't listen to today?
Listen, Miss Lit, all I'm saying is that it used to be run by shady people. I'm not sure if Mr. Lee maybe is having a hard morning, but I'm sure he just misspoke.
So he
That's
misspoke. He's mistaken.
That's right.
Now, what you would agree on is the Fed, they actually found cocaine in your club, right?
That's right. There was an investigation done and hidden behind a couple of bricks in my office building was cocaine. I don't know how it got.
Ma'am, hidden behind an office of bricks, you're leaving something out, aren't you?
Sure, it had all my mom's old decorations up.
Ma'am, it had a self-portrait of you, right?
That's right. My mom got this self-portrait painted of me when I was about 7 years old. Kept it right behind her desk. I didn't have the heart to take it down.
Okay, ma'am, so the Fed, they found a kilo of cocaine in your office behind a self-portrait of you? That's what you're agreeing to right now?
That's right. It was behind all the brick and mortar. They kind of had to deconstruct it behind that painting.
Maybe you're saying that this was all left by your mother, the previous institution. You'd agree in this case, one of your employees was on drugs, right?
What I know is that AJ, he was taking drugs that night. That's right.
Could you remind us which drugs?
I believe it was a concoction of a few of them. I remember MDMA, cocaine and methamphetamine, I believe.
Cocaine, methamphetamine. Your employee that was taking those drugs.
That's right. I don't know where he got that. That's all I know.
You know he was fresh off of a shift at your nightclub when he was on those drugs.
That's right.
Ma'am, would you say it's your responsibility?
Absolutely. Listen, we have a strict no drug and alcohol policy for all of our employees. If this was something I had known about, I would have addressed it as soon as I heard.
Hold on, ma'am. You actually gave a deposition before this case, right?
I did.
3 weeks before?
Absolutely.
Reviewed it yesterday?
That's right.
In that deposition, you actually said that what people do outside of your site isn't your responsibility, right?
That's right. For all my employees, once they're off shift, they are frankly out of my hands.
Okay, so the employee that was on drugs, that is your responsibility. You agree with that?
If it happened while he was on shift, if it was something I saw, sure.
All right, ma'am. To be clear, Mr. Maloney, you knew he was gonna testify against you, right?
That's right, there was a separate trial going on that Mr. Maloney was a part of.
You heard he had evidence you were a drug kingpin?
That's right, there were a few rumors going around that Mr. Maloney planned to testify.
Man, when you heard those rumors about Mr. Maloney, those made you furious, didn't they?
I was absolutely frustrated. Those lies about the club, they're not helpful to the company.
Not just frustrated, furious.
You have that right, ma'am.
Man, today you'd agree that what happened to Mr. Maloney was a tragedy, right?
Absolutely, it was.
You know, he ended up in a coma.
Yes, ma'am.
And the fact that he's in a coma, today you're saying that's a tragedy. Before, when the members of the jury weren't here, you called that karma, didn't you?
That's right, ma'am. I was a little frustrated when I was talking about the lawsuit, that's all.
Ma'am, you're a little frustrated, so you say that a man ending up in a coma is karma?
That's not exactly true in the context of what was said.
We can talk about the context, ma'am. You were asked about AJ testifying against you, right?
That's right.
You say you're furious.
That's right, ma'am.
You say that no one crosses you and gets away with it.
That's absolutely right.
You say that he wasn't able to testify against you.
No, unfortunately, before that happened, Mr. Maloney fell into a coma.
Ma'am, if after you say that he wasn't able to testify against you, that you say what happened to him was karma.
That's right.
Ma'am, the truth is, today, well, you said on direct examination, you're bringing this lawsuit to advocate for your employees.
That's right. It's something that's written in our employee contract that if they're ever at a point that they're not allowed to advocate for themselves or not able to, I step up and I help out.
And the truth is, you hate the defendant, Mr. Montespan, don't you?
After what he did to Mr. AJ Maloney, that's right.
Ma'am, it's your words. This lawsuit is about revenge.
On behalf of AJ, absolutely.
Nothing further.
Any?
Yes, Your Honor, we just inquire as to how much time we have remaining.
You have 1 minute and 22 seconds left for direct examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Can I proceed?
You're ready.
And Ms. Rajan, could you tell us a little bit about how your business has changed since when your mother owned it to now?
Absolutely. So the first thing I started working on were those shell companies she owned. Like I said, she was using them to siphon money in and out to who knows where. Nowadays, we weren't able to dissolve them legally because of some contracts in place. But we now use the money in those shell companies to anonymously donate to nonprofit organizations.
And Ms. Lay, rather, she had a couple of questions about karma. And ma'am, why are you bringing this lawsuit?
This is something I write in all my employee contracts. I tell them that if something happens to them, in this case, Mr. Maloney being attacked, he was incapacitated, I'm bringing forth the lawsuit to help him out.
Thank you. Nothing further.
No recross, Your Honor.
Hey, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Teddy Mothersbaugh to the stand. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
Sure. Hi, how are we? My name is Teddy Mothersbaugh. Pleasure to meet you all.
What do you do for work?
I'm the CEO of Mother Corp. It's a company that creates virtual jobs for students in countries with troubled economies or corrupt governments. We recently set up an office in Lebanon and beautiful country, but not too many job opportunities, but great students. So we give them virtual jobs to use their smarts.
How'd you end up as CEO?
Family business, passed down from my mother. I'll be honest, I'm not too good at the whole business thing, but I've been figuring it out. I spend most of my time teaching. I really love teaching kids and students, so I run an after-school teaching workshop.
So I've gotta ask. You also worked as a masked vigilante named the Serpent?
Yeah, I guess I put on a little mask and sure, you could call it a costume. I wear some green clothes. It's for the kids, I call me the Serpent. I kind of go around town, try and keep the community safer, pay parking tickets when I can, help return stolen purses, that sort of thing.
So is it true you hurt someone while working as this figure?
That is true. Didn't want to hurt anybody. It's never my intent to do so, but I don't deny that I did hurt someone.
Who'd you hurt?
It's a bouncer of a nightclub, the Hellfire Lounge, and his name was AJ Maloney.
So were you here for the plaintiff's opening statement?
I was, yeah.
Did you hear them say that you'd be forced to admit that you blame AJ Maloney for killing your parents?
I did hear that.
So is that true?
No, it's not. AJ, my mother, she was a politician. She was running for mayor in the city about a decade ago, and she was killed in a car accident. The result of a gang violence, and AJ, well, he's part of that gang now, but and this was decades ago. AJ must have been in elementary school at the time. I don't blame AJ. I blame the gang.
What about the expert witness that testified, the doctor with the lab coat? Were you here when she was on the stand?
Yes, I know. I played softball with her. I was the star hitter. She was usually on the bench.
So were you here when she talked about all the injuries that occurred then? The trauma, the bruising across the spine when you hurt Mr. Maloney?
Yeah, I heard her say all of that.
Is that true?
It is. I don't deny it. I did hurt AJ. What she said was true.
What about when that expert said that you were the main aggressor in this case? Was that correct?
No, that's absolutely not true. I was protecting somebody. I didn't go try and beat somebody up out of nowhere. Trying to protect someone.
So I want to talk a little bit more about that night. Where were you?
My girlfriend, she's a reporter. She wanted to write a story about the Hellfire Lounge, about the gang being run there, and she wanted to go to the lounge.
Speculation. Your Honor is speculating as to what his girlfriend wanted and her specific motives behind going to the club.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, what this witness's girlfriend wanted at the time isn't a fact that's material to this case. We believe he's just testifying as to what he believed that she wanted and why they were there together.
Response.
Yes, go ahead.
Your Honor, if he's testifying to his beliefs, he should phrase it as such. To testify that you have certain wants, that's speculative.
Okay, well, I'm going to sustain the objection. You can rephrase.
Yes, Your Honor. Motion to strike any offending testimony.
The motion is granted.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir, why were you at the Hellfire Lounge?
I was there with my girlfriend. I wanted to try and find some evidence to expose what might have been happening at the Hellfire Lounge. She's a reporter, so she went in and tried and collect any sort of evidence, and well, I was waiting outside around the corner from the alleyway.
When did she come back out?
No, I thought she was going to come from the alley, show me what evidence she found or didn't find, or whatever. But then I started hearing yelling from the alley.
What'd you do?
I mean, I went in to see what was going on. I went down the alley and
What'd you see?
I saw the bouncer, AJ Maloney. He was towering over her. She was on the ground. He was grabbing her by the shoulder, and I mean, he was kicking her and hitting her, and I didn't know what to do. I thought there was some sort of a mistake, some sort of a misunderstanding, so I yelled at the guy,
Did he answer?
no, I mean, it seemed like nothing was going through to him, I told him, this must be some sort of misunderstanding, let's figure this out, but, I mean, nothing was going through to him.
So how'd you react?
Objection, speculation once again as to whether or not the words were actually going through to AJ Maloney.
Okay. I'm gonna overrule that objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir, you said nothing was getting through to him. What did you do after that?
I stepped in, I grabbed him, I pushed him off of her,
Did he stop?
turned around, he looked at me, and his eyes were bloodshot, veins popping out of his forehead, I mean, it seemed obvious something was wrong with him. He reached into his jacket and he pulled out this weight, or this sock with a weight in it, and I mean, he rushed towards me, grabbed me by the shoulder, he pushed me down to the ground, and I mean, the guy was relentless, he just started wailing on me. I mean, he's a big guy, he was bigger than me, I didn't know what to do, and
What did you do?
I mean, I waited. As we fell to the ground, I saw it fall with him. I looked at Allie. She wasn't moving. I looked around, there wasn't anybody there to help. So I reached for it, I reached for the weight, and I reached for it, I grabbed it.
You are approaching opposing counsel with Exhibit 7. It's already been pre-admitted and stipulated to be the weapon in this case. Approaching the list with the same. Sir, is that the weight that you were talking about?
Yeah, that's it.
What'd you do with it?
Grabbed it, I didn't want to hurt the guy.
Did you?
Swung it at his arms, at his legs.
Did he stop?
No, he didn't stop. I mean, I swung it again. I mean, I swung it plenty of times. I swung it at his torso, at his ribs, and, at his chest. Anybody would have stopped.
Did he?
No, he just kept going. He just kept going. So I grabbed the weight and I let the weight of it swing through. I hit him in the head. I knocked him out. I hit him right in the head. When he stopped, I stopped.
So when Mr. Maloney finally stopped attacking you, what did you do?
I got up, I took my phone out. I wanted to call the cops, but I didn't have any service. I saw a payphone, I ran over to the payphone.
Did you stay until they came?
Of course I did. Allie was on the ground. This guy, AJ, was on the ground. He was bleeding from his head. I thought I might have killed the guy. Of course I waited for the cops.
What happened when they came?
They came, they took him to the hospital. I went with him.
What happened at the hospital?
I was worried for Allie. Taking care of her. Then I saw Mr. Maloney's brother. Poor kid was just 17 years old. I went over, I said, I'm sorry. Said I didn't want to hurt anybody. I didn't mean for.
They're sitting here today. Looking back, would you have done things differently?
I don't know. Part of me wishes maybe I just called the cops. Just didn't get involved. Maybe if I had waited, he would have, he would have hurt Allie even more. Part of me wishes I got in there earlier. Maybe he would have hurt her at all. I don't know, but I didn't go in there to try to hurt nobody. I was just trying to protect.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, I've got nothing further.
Right?
Your Honor, here's you towards grave Exhibit 7. May I proceed?
You're right.
Sir, you just told Miss Lay you recognize this.
I did, yeah.
This is what you used to put AJ Maloney into a coma. True?
It's true. I didn't want to hurt him, but it's true.
You're saying you didn't want to hurt him, but I want to talk about where you got this, all right?
All right.
Because you just told us that AJ Maloney was the one to bring this with him.
Right, it fell on the ground when we fell on the ground.
You told us that you saw him attacking Ali Uchino.
Yeah, I did.
Mr. Mothersbaugh, you were on trial earlier today when the doctor who examined your girlfriend testified.
That's right.
Did she say anything about your girlfriend's injuries being consistent with a sock with a weight in it?
Ma'am, I'm sorry, you must not have heard me. He took that out of his jacket after I threw him off of her.
So the one person whose injuries are consistent with a weighted sock is AJ Maloney.
Yeah, he didn't use it on Allie. I mean, he's a big guy, using that on a woman, I mean.
That's exactly right, sir. He didn't use it on Ali, but you used it on him. Sure.
Yeah, he brought it out, it fell on the ground, I mean, he was on top of me. I didn't know what to do.
You didn't use your fists.
I did, I tried.
You didn't call the police.
No, I couldn't.
Sir, this is what you used.
Yeah, I got it from him and I did what I could. I didn't want to have to use it.
You're saying you didn't want to have to use it. I want to talk about whether or not we can take you at your word. Because Mr. Mothersbaugh, the truth is that you're willing to lie.
What context? To protect somebody? I mean, if I absolutely have to, sure.
You're willing to lie in the pursuit of justice.
Yeah, if I gotta protect somebody, sure.
There's a particular group of people that you want brought to justice.
Yeah,
It's the same group of people that you believe killed your parents.
that's right.
Mr. Mothersbaugh, you think that AJ Maloney is part of that group of people that killed your parents.
No, yeah, he's part of the group, but I don't blame AJ. I mean, he was just a kid at the time.
Mr. Mothersbaugh, you think that you are entitled to be the one to bring justice on that group.
Of course, they killed my mother.
That's why you became a servant.
I think there's some powerful people in this town and the police turns a blind eye. Yeah, I decided to step up and do something.
Who'd you tell?
What do you mean?
Who did you tell that you were the servant?
Nobody. Kept it to myself. It wasn't about me.
You know, I find that interesting, sir. Because
Judge
You have-
Connor testifying.
what's wrong?
Overruled.
Sir, you hired Mr. Alfonso and Miss Lay over here to represent you in court today, true?
That's right.
You paid them money to work on your defense.
Yeah, of course.
You said, hey, Mr. Alfonso, Miss Lay, I think you should really know I'm actually the servant.
Yeah, they're my attorneys. I had to tell them everything that I knew so they could help me.
You also hired a woman named Miss Quilt.
Yeah, my attorneys, they hired an expert for this case. That's right.
You're paying her $10,000 to come here and work on your defense.
That's what they told me it costs. Yeah.
You know, when I was here earlier, I was listening to her testimony. You heard it too, right?
I was here. Yeah, you're right.
And Mr. Leander asked her, he said, well, would you say that Teddy Mothersbaugh is the servant? She said, no, I wouldn't say that.
Right. I never told her.
Sir, you didn't tell her that you were the servant.
Right. I just told you. I didn't tell anybody.
You knew that if she came to this courtroom, raised her right hand, took an oath, swore to tell the truth, and said that you were not the serpent, that would be a lie.
I'm sorry. I'm a little confused. I never told her if that's what you're asking.
Mr. Mothersbaugh, I'm asking you whether or not her saying that you are not the serpent is true.
Am the serpent? I'm not too sure what you're getting at.
A short thing, I can clarify, Mr. Mothersbaugh. You didn't tell her you were the serpent.
No,
She came here, she said he's not the serpent.
that's right.
Sir, that's not true.
That's correct. She didn't know about it.
So you're paying an expert to come here and testify to something that's not true
No, just something she doesn't know.
because you didn't tell her.
Right. I didn't tell her, so she doesn't know.
Nothing.
Hey, redirect.
No, Your Honor. May this witness be excused?
Yes, you can take your seat.
And with that, the defense rests our case in chief.
Okay, so score time, right? So, I'm not able to do the, experts, so I go out and the left, right. So far, it's working, this one, but I suspect it will stop at some point. I mean, I'll do the other way.
Yeah, so try and enter it, and then if it
Right. Just so you know, they're all on one side, because that's only I get it to change the page. And so it's on the computer for the experts, but the whole. It will not move sideways, that's the only way to get it changed.
Why don't we, let me see if we can, this is what you voted, right?
Oh. I have a feeling something on the screen, this guy's on screen cover,
So we just, this is just video.
right?
Do they know? There, do they know?
The students, you?
No, them. I don't know.
Oh, I guess. I would assume that what the sponsors sent over the business ones.
Although, you know, they came through. Exam using computer actually session, so it's really good.
I like so rich.
Right. Yeah, really, when I took the exam, I took it down and said, reading this for the first year, I think, because I was typing too. Stealing way. So you guys can do comments and then should be good to go.
Thank you. So you guys have filled it out?
Yeah.
I'm all about it.
Okay, so this is comment time and we can tell you about ourselves and I'm Ken O'Brien. I am a commercial litigator and I've been practicing for 45 years, probably retiring at the end of the year. And I've been doing mock trial judging at every level from middle school to law school for many years. I've always felt that college is a sweet spot for whatever reason, but this is brand new to me. I've actually, I find it very confusing and my computer wasn't working right, but I found it very enjoyable, focusing on the witnesses the way it's done. Both I did the first round in the morning and this one. I really don't have that many comments other than that, you know, it's enjoyable to watch all these different personalities. I'm going to make the same comment this afternoon that I made this morning, which is that apropos of nothing, I guess, but I personally find the lawyers kind of distracting because we're not allowed to grade them. Nothing they do matters. So personally, I would be doing fewer rather than more objections. So I just think the objection business is kind of distracting. But I thought all the witnesses were great.
Want me to go first? My name is Ellen Serban. I'm a retired attorney. I was a litigator and also a certified appellate specialist for 36, well, I wasn't an appellate specialist for 36 years, but I practiced for 36 years. My practice was extremely varied. I did many different areas of law. Can I just say that all of you folks are so impressive. And to the extent that at some point you are considering law